Have you ever wondered why some elderly people radiate peace and contentment while others spend their final years bitter and resentful? Why do some elders seem to glow with wisdom and joy while others carry decades of regret and disappointment? Why does one person embrace their aging with grace while another fights it with anger and fear? The answer lies in a simple but powerful truth. The Buddha taught that old age is not a time to live for others. It is a time to finally live for yourself. Most people spend their entire lives living for others. As children, they live for their parents' approval. As young adults, they live for society's expectations. In middle age, they live for their family's needs. They sacrifice their dreams for their children. They postpone their happiness for their responsibilities. They put themselves last, always last, thinking that one day, someday they will finally live for themselves. But that day never comes, because they never learned how to put themselves first without guilt. Then old age arrives. The children grow up and leave. The career ends. The busy years fade. And suddenly they find themselves with time, with space, with freedom. But they do not know what to do with it. They spent their whole life living for others. And now, when they finally have time for themselves, they do not know who they are anymore. They feel empty, lost, purposeless. They wonder, what now? Who am I without my roles, my responsibilities, my duties to others? The Buddha taught something profound about old age. He said that the final stage of life is not about slowing down and fading away. It is about returning to yourself. It is about finally living for yourself after decades of living for others. It is about discovering who you are when all the roles you played, parent, employee, provider, caretaker, fall away. Old age is not the end of life. It is the beginning of the deepest relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. Most people spend their youth building careers, building families, building reputations, building wealth. They give their time, their energy, their attention to everyone and everything except themselves. They live for their children. They live for their spouses. They live for their jobs. They live for society's expectations. And somewhere along the way, they forget who they are beneath all those roles. Then one day they wake up old. The children have grown. The career has ended. The responsibilities have shifted. And they look in the mirror and do not recognize the person staring back, because they spent so many years being everything to everyone else that they forgot to be something for themselves. Old age is not the end of life. It is the beginning of a different kind of life. A life where you finally have permission to focus on yourself. Not selfishly, but wisely. You spent decades taking care of others, raising children, building careers, fulfilling obligations, meeting expectations. Now, in your later years, the Buddha teaches that it is time to come home to yourself, to discover who you are when you are no longer defined by your roles, to find peace not in what you do for others but in who you are when you are alone with yourself. Today, you will learn 10 profound lessons about focusing on yourself in old age. These are not just ideas. These are truths that will help you make your later years the most peaceful, meaningful, and joyful years of your life. Lesson 1. Imagine understanding that old age is not the end of your purpose, but the beginning of your truest freedom. The Buddha taught that every stage of life has its own wisdom, and every season has its own beauty. Old age is not a curse. It is not a decline. It is not the end of meaning. Old age is liberation. It is the time when you finally have permission to stop performing for others and start living for yourself. For decades, you lived according to other people's expectations. You worked for approval. You raised children for duty. You maintained relationships out of obligation. You built a life that looked good from the outside but maybe never truly belonged to you. Old age is your chance to finally take that life back. The world tells you that old age is about decline, about losing relevance, about fading away quietly while others take center stage. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. Old age is not the end of your value. It is the beginning of your freedom. For the first time in your life, you are released from the endless demands of building, proving and performing. You have spent decades taking care of others, meeting expectations, fulfilling duties, and now, finally, you have permission to focus on yourself. Not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Society conditions you to believe that your worth is tied to your productivity, your usefulness to others, your ability to serve. But Buddhism teaches that your worth is inherent. It does not diminish with age. It does not fade when your body slows down or when your responsibilities shift. Your worth has always been inside you, independent of what you do for others. And old age is not the end of your value. It is the beginning of a deeper, truer relationship with yourself. Most people reach old age exhausted because they spent their entire lives pouring into everyone else. They raised children. They built careers. They took care of parents. They served their communities. They sacrificed their own needs for decades, always putting themselves last. And now, in old age, they do not know how to stop. They still put everyone else first. They still neglect themselves. They still believe that focusing on themselves is selfish. But Buddhism teaches a liberating truth. Focusing on yourself in old age is not selfish. It is sacred. It is necessary. It is your right. You have given enough. You have served enough. You have sacrificed enough. Now it is time to turn inward, to nourish your own spirit, to cultivate your own peace, to live for yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a wise way. Because if you do not focus on yourself now, you will spend your final years exhausted, resentful, and disconnected from the very life you worked so hard to build. Today, you will learn 10 profound lessons about why focusing on yourself in old age is not selfish but sacred, not abandonment but wisdom, not cruelty but compassion. These lessons will show you how to reclaim your peace, your energy, and your joy in the years when you deserve them most. If you are approaching old age or already in it, if you feel guilty for wanting to rest, if you are tired of living for everyone else, these teachings will set you free. Lesson 1. Imagine understanding that old age is not the time to serve everyone else but the time to finally serve yourself. The Buddha taught that every stage of life has its own purpose and its own wisdom. When you are young, you build. You work. You serve. You sacrifice. You give your energy to raising children, building careers, supporting families, fulfilling obligations. For decades, you put yourself last. You prioritize everyone else's needs above your own. You delay your own peace, your own rest, your own joy, believing that someday later, when everything is settled, you will finally take care of yourself. But that day never comes unless you decide it comes. And old age is when you must make that decision. The Buddha taught that every stage of life has its own purpose and its own wisdom. Youth is for learning and building. Middle age is for contributing and creating. But old age, the final season of life, has a sacred purpose that most people miss entirely. Old age is not a time to keep proving yourself to the world. It is not a time to continue chasing validation, status, or the approval of others. Old age is the time to finally, after decades of serving everyone else, come home to yourself. Most people reach old age exhausted, not from their years, but from a lifetime of living for others. They spent their youth trying to meet their parents' expectations. They spent their middle years trying to build security for their children. They spent their whole lives trying to please, to perform, to prove, to provide. And now, when they finally have time, they do not know how to live for themselves. They feel guilty for resting. They feel selfish for wanting peace. They feel lost without someone needing them. But Buddhism teaches something that changes everything. Old age is not the end of your value. Old age is not the time to simply wait for death. Old age is the most sacred time of your life. It is the time when you finally have permission to focus on yourself, to let go of what others think, to release the burdens you carried for decades, to discover who you are when you are not performing a role for someone else, to prepare your spirit for the greatest transition of all. The Buddha himself taught that life has stages. Youth is for learning. Middle age is for building. Old age is for wisdom and liberation. Yet most people waste their old age feeling useless, lonely, and forgotten. They sit around waiting for children to visit, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to need them again. This waiting creates suffering, because you are seeking external validation in a time meant for internal cultivation. Today, you will learn 10 powerful lessons about focusing on yourself in old age. These teachings will help you understand that your later years are not about fading away. They are about finally becoming fully yourself. They are not about being less. They are about being free. If you are in your older years or caring for someone who is, these truths will transform how you see this sacred stage of life. Lesson 1. Imagine understanding that old age is not the end of your story, but the chapter where you finally get to be the main character. The Buddha taught that every stage of life has its purpose and its gift. The gift of old age is freedom. Freedom from expectations. Freedom from performance. Freedom from the endless need to prove yourself. For your entire life, you have been supporting roles in other people's stories. You were the dutiful child in your parents' story, the reliable spouse in your partner's story, the devoted parent in your children's story, the dependable employee in your company's story. You played these roles beautifully, but they were roles, not your whole self. Now, in old age, you finally have permission to stop performing. You do not have to be strong for everyone anymore. You do not have to hide your tiredness. You do not have to pretend you are okay when you are not. You do not have to keep proving your worth. This is your time, your chapter, your story. But most older people do not realize this. They keep trying to be useful in the old ways. They keep waiting for approval. They keep seeking validation from people who have moved on with their own lives. This creates tremendous suffering. The sadness you feel in old age often comes not from age itself, but from believing you no longer matter because you are not needed in the same way. You think your value came from what you did for others. So when you cannot do those things anymore, you feel worthless. But this is a lie. Your value never came from your usefulness. Your value is inherent. You matter because you exist, not because of what you produce. There is a profound story about an elderly monk who had served his monastery for 60 years. He cooked meals, cleaned the temple, taught young monks, helped travelers, managed the gardens. Everyone relied on him. Then he became too old to do these tasks. His body weakened. His hands shook. His memory faded. He could no longer serve others the way he used to. He felt useless and ashamed. He thought about leaving the monastery because what purpose did he serve now? One evening, the head monk sat with him. The old monk confessed his shame. "I am a burden now. I contribute nothing. I should go." The head monk looked at him with great compassion and said something that changed everything. "For 60 years, you served everyone else's enlightenment. You cooked so we could eat. You cleaned so we could focus. You taught so we could learn. You gave your entire life to supporting our journeys, but you neglected your own. You have been so busy being useful that you forgot to focus on your own liberation. Now, finally, you have time. This is not the end of your purpose. This is the beginning of your real work. The work of knowing yourself. The work of preparing your spirit. The work of finding peace before you leave this life." The old monk wept. He realized he had spent 60 years caring for everyone but himself. He had earned the right to rest, to reflect, to meditate, to simply be. He stopped feeling guilty. He stopped trying to be useful in the old ways. He dedicated his remaining years to his own inner peace. He meditated. He contemplated life and death. He made peace with his regrets. He forgave himself for his mistake. He let go of old grudges. He prepared his spirit for the transition to come. When he finally passed away peacefully in his sleep 3 years later, the monks said they had never seen anyone die with such peace on their face. This is the gift of old age that most people miss. It is not about being useful anymore. It is about being present. It is not about serving everyone else. It is about finally serving yourself. You have earned this. You have given enough. Now it is time to receive. Time to rest. Time to focus on your own spirit, your own peace, your own preparation for whatever comes next. When you reach old age, stop measuring your worth by what you do for others. Stop feeling guilty for resting. Stop apologizing for taking time for yourself. This is your chapter. Make yourself the main character finally. Focus on your peace, your comfort, your joy, your spiritual preparation. You have carried everyone else long enough. Now carry yourself with the same love and dedication you gave to everyone else. Lesson 2. Imagine releasing the burden of trying to stay relevant and discovering the freedom of simply being. The Buddha taught about the suffering that comes from grasping. In old age, one of the biggest sources of suffering is grasping at relevance. Trying to stay important. Trying to stay needed. Trying to prove you still matter. Trying to keep up with a world that has moved on without you. This desperate grasping creates exhausting suffering. Because the world will move on. Technology will change. Culture will shift. Younger people will take over. This is natural. This is how life works. Fighting it creates pain. Many older people exhaust themselves trying to stay relevant in ways that no longer fit. They force themselves to use technology they do not understand because they fear being left behind. They give advice that nobody asked for because they fear becoming invisible. They put themselves into situations where they are not needed because they fear being forgotten. They hold on to roles they can no longer fulfill because they fear having no identity. All of this comes from the false belief that your value depends on being relevant. But Buddhism teaches something radical. Your value does not depend on being relevant. Your value depends on being present, on being authentic, on being at peace. When you stop trying to be relevant, you stop competing. You stop comparing. You stop exhausting yourself. You start simply being. And in that being, you discover a different kind of power. The power of presence. The power of wisdom. The power of letting life move without needing to control it. There is a story about an old master who lived in a small village. He had been the village leader for many years. People came to him for advice, for judgment, for wisdom. He guided the village through good times and bad. But then he grew very old. The village elected a new, younger leader. At first, the old master felt hurt, invisible, forgotten. He tried to stay involved. He would show up at meetings uninvited. He would give advice nobody asked for. He would criticize the new leader's decisions. He was fighting to stay relevant, fighting against the natural flow of life. One day, a traveler passed through the village and noticed the old master's suffering. The traveler asked him, "Why do you fight so hard to hold on to a role that is no longer yours?" The old master replied defensively, "Because without that role, who am I? If I am not the leader, then I am nothing." The traveler smiled sadly and said, "You think your value came from your role. But that was never true. Your value comes from who you are, not what you do. A tree does not become less valuable when it stops bearing fruit. It simply enters a new phase. It provides shade. It gives beauty. It stands as testimony to all the seasons it has survived. You are like that tree. Let go of the fruit-bearing season. Enter the shade-giving season. There is great value in simply being a peaceful presence." The old master sat with these words for many days. Finally, he understood. He stopped going to meetings uninvited. He stopped giving unasked advice. He stopped fighting to be relevant. Instead, he spent his days sitting under a tree in the village square. Children would come and sit with him. He would tell them stories, not to teach, just to share. Young people would visit when they were troubled. He would listen, not to solve, just to understand. Elderly people would join him in peaceful silence. He had become something different, not a leader, but a presence. A peaceful, wise presence that people sought not for solutions but for comfort. In his final years, more people visited him than ever before. Not because he was relevant, but because he was real. because he had stopped performing and started simply being. He died peacefully at 93, surrounded by people who loved him not for what he did but for who he was. This is the wisdom of old age. Relevance is exhausting, but presence is effortless. Striving is painful, but being is peaceful. When you reach old age, stop fighting to stay relevant. Let the world move forward without you. This is not defeat. This is wisdom. Focus on being present, being authentic, being at peace. When you stop grasping at relevance, you discover something more valuable. You discover contentment. You discover that who you are is enough, that you do not need to prove anything anymore. That simply being alive, simply being you, simply being present is your gift now. Lesson 3. Imagine making peace with your body's decline and honoring it for carrying you this far. The Buddha taught about impermanence and the nature of the physical form. One of the hardest parts of aging is watching your body decline. The body that once obeyed you now betrays you. The body that once felt strong now feels weak. The body that once moved easily now moves with pain. This decline creates suffering. Not just physical suffering from pain and limitation, but emotional suffering from resistance, from grief, from anger at what you have lost. Most older people fight their body's decline. They compare their current body to their younger body and feel only loss. They mourn what they can no longer do. They resent their aches and pains. They feel betrayed by this body that is failing them. This resistance creates a war between you and your body. And in that war, you both lose. The body continues declining regardless of your resistance, and you suffer emotionally from fighting what you cannot change. But Buddhism teaches a different approach. Stop fighting your body's decline and start honoring it. Your body is not betraying you. Your body is exhausted. It has carried you for 70, 80, 90 years. It has walked thousands of miles for you. It has lifted countless weights. It has fought off countless illnesses. It has healed countless wounds. It has given you children. It has experienced pleasure and pain. It has been your faithful vehicle through this entire life. And now it is tired. It deserves rest. It deserves gratitude. It deserves honor. When you shift from resistance to gratitude, everything changes. The pain does not disappear. The limitations do not vanish. But your relationship with your body transforms. You stop being angry at it. You start being grateful to it. You stop demanding it be young again. You start accepting it as it is. You stop fighting decline. You start honoring the journey. This shift brings tremendous peace. There was an elderly woman of 85 who could barely walk anymore. Her knees hurt constantly. Her back was bent. Her hands were gnarled with arthritis. Every movement was painful. For years, she was angry about it. She would curse her body. She would cry about what she could no longer do. She would compare herself to her younger self and feel only bitterness. Her daughter watched her suffering and did not know how to help. One day, the daughter took her mother to visit a monk who was known for his wisdom with elderly people. The old woman complained to the monk about her failing body. "My body has betrayed me. It will not do what I ask. It hurts constantly. I am trapped in this prison of pain." The monk listened with deep compassion. Then he said something unexpected. "Your body has not betrayed you. Your body is a faithful servant that has worked for you for 85 years without rest. It has earned the right to be tired. It has earned the right to slow down. Instead of being angry at it, why not thank it?" The woman was confused. "Thank it? For this pain?" The monk nodded. "Yes. Thank your legs for walking you through 85 years. Thank your back for holding you upright for 85 years. Thank your hands for holding your children, preparing countless meals, creating beauty. They are not betraying you. They are exhausted. They need your gratitude, not your anger." Something shifted in the woman that day. She went home, and that night, before sleep, she did something she had never done. She spoke to her body. "Thank you, legs, for carrying me all these years. I know you are tired. Thank you, back, for holding me up. I know you hurt. Thank you, hands, for all you have done. I know you need rest." At first, she felt silly. But she kept doing it every night, thanking different parts of her body, acknowledging what they had done for her, honoring their service. Slowly, her relationship with her body changed. The pain was still there. The limitations were still there. But she was no longer angry. She was grateful. She stopped cursing her body and started caring for it gently. She rested more without guilt. She moved slowly without frustration. She accepted her limitations without bitterness. Her daughter noticed the change. "Mom, you seem more peaceful." The woman smiled. "I stopped fighting my body. I started honoring it. It changes everything." This is one of the great lessons of old age. Your body is not your enemy. Your body is your faithful companion that has served you your entire life. It is declining because that is what bodies do. Fighting this natural process creates suffering, but accepting it with gratitude creates peace. Your body has earned the right to slow down. Honor it for bringing you this far. Treat it with gentleness and respect. Thank it for its service, and let it rest without guilt or anger. When you reach old age, speak to your body with kindness. Thank your legs for all the places they have taken you. Thank your hands for all they have created. Thank your heart for beating faithfully for all these years. Thank your lungs for every breath. Stop demanding that your body be young again. Accept it as it is. Honor its limitations. Celebrate its endurance. This shift from resistance to gratitude will bring you more peace than any medicine ever could. Lesson 4. Imagine letting go of old resentments and spending your remaining time in forgiveness and peace. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal intending to throw it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. In old age, many people carry decades of resentment. Old hurts, old betrayals, old disappointments. They carry grudges against people who wronged them 40 years ago. They harbor bitterness about things that happened when they were young. They replay old arguments in their minds. They nurse old wounds that never healed. This weight of resentment is exhausting. It steals your peace. It occupies your mind. Colors how you see the world. It turns your memories bitter. It makes you unable to enjoy the present because you are stuck in the past. And in old age, when you have limited time left, carrying this resentment is a tragic waste. Because the person you are hurting is yourself. The person who hurt you 40 years ago has probably moved on. They are probably not thinking about you at all. They might even be dead. But you are still carrying the hurt. You are still letting them steal your peace. Old age is the time to release this burden. Not for the other person's sake, for yours. Forgiveness is not about saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness is about releasing the power their actions still have over you. It is about taking back your peace from the past. It is about refusing to waste your remaining time on old anger. When you forgive, you do not change the past. You free yourself from it. Most people think forgiveness is weakness, but Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is strength. It takes no strength to hold a grudge. Anyone can do that. It takes tremendous strength to let go, to release, to forgive. And the older you get, the more important this becomes. Because time is running out. Do you really want to spend your final years angry about things that happened decades ago? Do you want to die bitter and hard? Or do you want to die peaceful and free? The choice is yours. There is a powerful story of two elderly monks who had once been close friends. But 50 years earlier, they had a terrible argument. One monk accused the other of stealing credit for his work. The other monk denied it. They argued. They said terrible things to each other. They parted ways angry. And for 50 years they did not speak. Both monks carried this grudge through their entire lives. They would see each other at gatherings and look away. They would hear news about each other and feel bitterness. 50 years of friendship destroyed by one argument. Now both monks were very old, in their 90s. Both knew they did not have much time left. One of the monks became very ill. He was on his deathbed. His students gathered around him. He seemed troubled even as he was dying. One student asked, "Master, what troubles you? Why can you not find peace?" The dying monk said quietly, "I am carrying a burden I should have released decades ago. I have wasted 50 years being angry at my old friend. I am dying with this bitterness in my heart." His students looked at each other. One said, "Master, it is not too late. Would you like us to bring him here?" The old monk's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, please. Before I die, I must release this weight." The students went to find the other monk. They explained the situation. The other monk hesitated. 50 years of pride and hurt rose up in him. But then he thought, "We are both dying soon. Is pride worth more than peace? Is being right worth dying bitter?" He went to his old friend's bedside. The two old men looked at each other. 50 years of separation. 50 years of resentment. Both their eyes filled with tears. The dying monk spoke first, his voice weak. "Old friend, I have carried anger toward you for 50 years. I do not even remember anymore if the argument mattered. But I remember it cost me your friendship. I am dying. I do not want to die angry. I forgive you for whatever hurt me. And I ask your forgiveness for whatever I did to hurt you." The other monk wept openly. "There is nothing to forgive. We were both foolish. We let pride destroy what mattered most. I forgive you. And I am sorry. I wasted 50 years we could have spent as friends." They held hands. Two old men, both near death, finally releasing the weight they had carried for half a century. The dying monk's face transformed. The trouble left his eyes. Peace settled over him. He died 3 days later, but he died at peace. The surviving monk lived 2 more years. He told this story to everyone who would listen. Do not wait until you are dying to forgive. Do not waste decades holding on to anger. Life is too short. Peace is too precious. Whatever anyone did to you, no matter how terrible, holding on to it hurts you more than them. Let it go. Forgive. Not for them. For yourself. This is one of the most important lessons of old age. You do not have time left to waste on resentment. Make a list of every person you are still angry at, every old hurt you are still carrying, and decide, one by one, to let them go. Not because those people deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Write letters you never send. Say the words out loud to an empty room. Do whatever you need to do to release the burden. Because every resentment you release makes space for peace to enter. And in old age, peace is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Lesson 5. Imagine spending your days doing only what brings your spirit joy and releasing all obligations that feel like burden. The Buddha taught about right action and living in alignment with your truth. In old age, one of the greatest gifts you have is permission to release obligations. For your entire life, you did things you had to do. You went to jobs you did not love because you needed money. You attended events you did not enjoy because it was expected. You maintained relationships that drained you because you felt obligated. You said yes when you wanted to say no because you feared judgment. You performed duties that felt like burdens because that is what responsible people do. But now, in old age, those obligations no longer apply. You do not need to impress anyone. You do not need to prove yourself. You do not need to maintain appearances. You do not need to do things out of duty alone. This is your time to finally live according to what brings you joy. To release what feels like burden. To simplify your life down to only what matters. To spend your limited remaining time on things that feed your spirit rather than drain it. Many older people do not give themselves this permission. They still feel obligated. They still say yes when they want to say no. They still attend gatherings they do not enjoy. They still maintain relationships that feel empty. They still try to please everyone. They waste their precious remaining time on things that do not bring them joy. And then they wonder why old age feels so heavy. It feels heavy because you are still carrying burdens you no longer need to carry. The great freedom of old age is the freedom to say, I have given enough. I have done enough. I have pleased enough people. Now I will do only what brings me peace and joy. This is not selfish. This is wisdom. You have earned this freedom. You have spent decades serving others, meeting obligations, doing what needed to be done. Now you get to choose. Now you get to be selective. Now you get to protect your precious remaining energy for only what truly matters to you. There was an 80-year-old woman who was exhausted. She had a large family and felt obligated to host every holiday, every birthday, every gathering. Even though her body hurt. Even though it stressed her. Even though she did not enjoy it anymore. She did it because that had always been her role. She was the family matriarch. The gatherer. The one who brought everyone together. But now it felt like a burden. She resented these gatherings even though she loved her family. She felt guilty for feeling this way. Her best friend, who was the same age, visited one day and found her in tears. "What is wrong?" the friend asked. The woman confessed, "I am so tired. I do not want to host Thanksgiving this year. But I feel so guilty. What will everyone think? They expect it. It is my responsibility." Her friend looked at her with kind but firm eyes and said, "You are 80 years old. You have hosted Thanksgiving for 50 years. You have done your part. It is time for someone else to step up. It is time for you to release this burden." "But what if they are upset?" the woman worried. Her friend replied, "Let them be upset. Their feelings are not more important than your peace. You have spent your whole life putting everyone else's comfort before your own. You have maybe 10 good years left. Maybe less. Do you really want to spend them doing things out of obligation rather than joy? Tell them no. See what happens." The woman was terrified, but she did it. She called her children and said, "I will not be hosting Thanksgiving this year. I am too tired. Someone else needs to take over." There was silence on the phone. Then surprise. Then, to her shock, relief. One daughter said, "Mom, we have been worried about you. We could see how tired you were, but we did not want to hurt your feelings by suggesting you stop. We are glad you finally said something. We will host it. You just come and enjoy." The woman cried with relief. All these years, she had been carrying a burden she thought everyone expected when actually they would have happily taken it from her if she had just asked. That Thanksgiving, she attended as a guest. She did not cook, did not clean, did not stress. She just enjoyed her family. It was the first Thanksgiving in 50 years she actually enjoyed. She realized that day how much of her exhaustion came from carrying burdens nobody was actually asking her to carry. This is a profound truth about old age. Most of the obligations you feel are self-imposed. Most of the burdens you carry are ones you could put down if you just gave yourself permission. When you reach old age, evaluate everything you do. Ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does this feed my spirit? Does this matter to me? If the answer is no, release it. Stop hosting events you do not enjoy. Stop attending gatherings that drain you. Stop maintaining relationships that feel empty. Stop saying yes out of obligation. Your time is limited. Your energy is precious. Spend both only on what truly matters to you. Do things that bring you peace. Spend time with people who feed your soul. Engage in activities that bring you joy. Release everything else without guilt. This is not selfish. This is honoring the time you have left. This is choosing joy over obligation. This is finally putting yourself first after a lifetime of putting others first. You have earned this freedom. Use it. Lesson 6. Imagine preparing your spirit for death with the same care you once prepared for life. The Buddha taught extensively about death. He taught that death is not the enemy. Death is simply part of the cycle. Everyone who is born will die. This is not a tragedy. This is nature. Yet most people spend their lives avoiding thinking about death. They push it away. They fear it. They pretend it will not happen. And then, when old age arrives and death becomes impossible to ignore, they panic. They are completely unprepared spiritually for the most important transition they will ever make. Buddhism teaches that old age is the time to prepare for death. Not in a morbid way, but in a wise, mindful way. Just as you once prepared for important events in your life, your wedding, the birth of your children, a new career, death deserves preparation. Spiritual preparation, mental preparation, emotional preparation. This preparation does not make you morbid or depressed. It makes you peaceful. It makes you ready. It removes the fear that comes from avoiding what is inevitable. Preparing for death means contemplating it regularly, thinking about it, making peace with it, understanding that everything you love will eventually end, including your own life. This contemplation sounds depressing, but it actually creates the opposite effect. When you deeply accept that you will die, you stop wasting time on things that do not matter. You stop holding grudges. You stop postponing joy. You stop taking people for granted. You become more present, more grateful, more alive because you understand how temporary everything is. Preparing for death also means resolving what needs to be resolved. Making peace with people you have hurt. Forgiving people who have hurt you. Saying the words that need to be said. Doing the things you always meant to do. Tying up loose ends so you do not leave emotional messes behind. So that when death comes, you can go peacefully, knowing you have completed what needed completing. There is a story of an old monk who spent his last 10 years preparing for death. Every day, he would sit quietly and contemplate his mortality. He would imagine his last breath. He would think about what happens after death. He would make peace with the idea of leaving this body, this life, this world. His younger monks thought he was morbid. "Master, why do you think about death so much? It is depressing." The old monk smiled and said, "I think about death because I want to live fully. When you forget you will die, you waste time. You postpone joy. You take people for granted. But when you remember death is coming, every moment becomes precious. Every breath becomes a gift. Every person becomes sacred." The young monks did not understand yet. But the old monk continued his practice. He wrote letters to everyone important in his life, telling them what they meant to him. He forgave everyone who had wronged him. He asked forgiveness from everyone he had wronged. He gave away his few possessions to people who needed them. He made arrangements for his funeral so nobody would have to make difficult decisions while grieving. He lived each day as if it might be his last, not frantically, but fully. With presence. With gratitude. With peace. When he finally became ill at 92, he was completely ready. His students gathered around his bed, crying. But he was peaceful. He looked at them and said, "Do not cry. This is not sad. I have lived a full life. I have prepared for this moment for 10 years. I am ready. I am not afraid. I am actually curious. What comes next? I do not know. But I am at peace with not knowing." He closed his eyes and died peacefully, a small smile on his face. His students said they had never seen anyone die with such peace. They realized that his years of death contemplation had given him a gift they all wanted, the ability to die without fear. This is what preparing for death looks like. It is not morbid. It is wise. When you reach old age, start contemplating your mortality regularly. Not to make yourself sad, but to make yourself present. Think about your death. Visualize it. Make peace with it. Write your letters. Say your words. Forgive everyone. Ask for forgiveness. Resolve what needs resolving. Give away what you do not need. Simplify your life. Tie up your loose ends. Live each day knowing it could be your last. This does not make you anxious. It makes you grateful. It makes you alive. Death is coming whether you prepare for it or not. But preparing for it means you can die peacefully instead of fearfully. You can die complete instead of with regret. You can die grateful for the life you lived instead of bitter about the life you did not live. Preparation is a gift you give yourself. Start today. Do not wait. Because nobody knows how much time they have left. Use the time you have to prepare your spirit for the greatest journey you will ever take. Lesson 7. Imagine finding deep joy in simple pleasures and discovering that you need very little to be happy. The Buddha taught about the freedom that comes from simplicity. In old age, many people discover a profound truth that younger people rarely understand. Happiness does not require much. After decades of chasing, accumulating, achieving, and striving, older people often realize that the greatest joys are the simplest ones. A warm cup of tea, a gentle breeze, a bird singing, a grandchild's laughter, a conversation with an old friend, a moment of sunshine on your face. These simple pleasures, once overlooked in the busy pursuit of bigger things, become precious treasures. When you are young and middle-aged, you think happiness requires achievement, possessions, status, excitement. You chase these things endlessly. You think, when I get this, when I achieve that, when I own this, then I will be happy. But you get those things and the happiness is fleeting. So you chase more things, bigger things, better things. The chase never ends because you are looking for happiness in the wrong places. You are looking outside when happiness lives inside. You are looking in complexity when happiness lives in simplicity. Old age strips away the illusions. Your body cannot chase anymore. Your energy limits what you can do. Your circumstances simplify whether you want them to or not. And in this simplification, if you allow it, you discover something beautiful. You need very little to be happy. The elaborate lifestyle you once thought essential now feels unnecessary. The possessions you once treasured now feel like burdens. The achievements you once chased now feel meaningless. What matters is simple: connection, peace, beauty, presence, love. These things do not cost money. They do not require achievement. They do not need complexity. They simply require attention. The great gift of old age is learning to find profound joy in simple things. To sit in your garden and watch birds with complete contentment. To enjoy your morning tea like it is a sacred ritual. To feel the softness of your blanket and appreciate it deeply. To watch clouds move across the sky and find it fascinating. To have a 10-minute conversation with a friend and feel completely fulfilled. Young people think this sounds boring. But older people who have learned this lesson know it is anything but boring. It is liberation. It is discovering that happiness was never hidden in complexity. It was always available in simplicity. You just had to slow down enough to notice. There was an elderly man of 88 who lived in a small assisted living apartment. He had once been a wealthy businessman. He had owned a large house, expensive cars, traveled the world, ate at fancy restaurants, collected art. But now, in his small apartment, he had very little. Just a bed, a chair, a small table, a few photos. When people visited, they felt sad for him. They thought he must be miserable after having so much and now having so little. But he was not miserable. He was the most content person anyone knew. He would sit in his chair by the window for hours, watching the trees, watching birds, watching clouds. He would drink his morning tea slowly, savoring every sip. He would talk to the nurses and staff, genuinely interested in their lives. He would flip through his old photo albums, smiling at memories. He seemed happier now than he had been when he was wealthy. One day, his nephew visited and asked him, "Uncle, how are you so happy here? You had so much before. Does not this small room make you sad?" The old man looked at his nephew with gentle wisdom and said something profound. "When I had all those things, I was not happy. I was always worried about losing them. Always working to get more. Always comparing what I had to what others had. I was never satisfied. I was never present. I was never at peace. Now I have almost nothing. But I am free. I am not worried about losing anything because there is nothing to lose. I am not trying to get more because I do not need more. I am not comparing because there is nothing to compare. For the first time in my life, I am simply here. Present. Grateful. And I have discovered something amazing. All the joy I spent my life chasing was always available. I just had to be still enough to notice it." He continued, Every morning, I watch the sunrise through my window. It is free. It is beautiful. It fills me with joy. I drink my tea slowly and I taste it, really taste it, instead of gulping it down while thinking about business. That simple pleasure is worth more than any expensive meal I ever ate. A nurse stops by and we talk about her grandson. That connection is more fulfilling than any business meeting I ever had. I look at photos of my life and I feel gratitude for all of it, the good and the bad, because it made me who I am. These simple things bring me more happiness than all my wealth ever did. I wish I had learned this lesson 50 years ago. But I am grateful I learned it at all. The nephew left that day thinking deeply about his own life. He was in his 50s, still chasing, still accumulating, still thinking happiness was just around the next corner. His uncle had shown him that happiness was not around any corner. It was right here, in simple pleasures, available anytime he slowed down enough to notice. This is one of the great lessons old age teaches. Simplify your life. Release what you do not need. Stop chasing what you do not have. Find joy in what is right in front of you. A good meal. A warm blanket. A kind word. A peaceful moment. These simple pleasures are not substitutes for real happiness. They are real happiness. When you learn to find joy in simplicity, you become unshakable. Because your happiness no longer depends on circumstances. It depends only on your ability to be present and grateful. And that ability is always available to you, no matter how old you are, no matter how little you have, no matter what condition you are in. Lesson 8. Imagine sharing your wisdom generously but without forcing it on those who are not ready to hear it. The Buddha taught that wisdom is a gift but it can only be received by those ready to receive it. One of the frustrations of old age is that you finally have wisdom to share but nobody seems to want it. You have learned so much from your decades of life. You have made mistakes and learned from them. You have been through hardships and emerged stronger. You have insights about life, relationships, work, happiness, suffering. You want to share this hard-earned wisdom with younger people so they can avoid the mistakes you made. But most younger people do not want your advice. They think your wisdom is outdated. They think times have changed. They think their situation is different. They think they know better. When you try to share wisdom, they dismiss it. They ignore it. They get annoyed. This is painful for older people. You are trying to help. You are trying to save them from pain. But they will not listen. It feels like your wisdom is worthless. Like your experiences mean nothing. Like you have nothing valuable to contribute. But Buddhism teaches an important truth. You cannot force wisdom on anyone. Wisdom can only be received by those who are ready. When a student is ready, the teacher appears. But if the student is not ready, the teacher's words fall on deaf ears. This is not because the wisdom is not valuable. It is because the student has not yet experienced the pain that makes the wisdom relevant. Younger people have not lived long enough to appreciate what you know. They still think they will be the exception. They still think they can avoid the pain you are trying to warn them about. They need to experience it themselves before your wisdom will make sense to them. Understanding this removes frustration. You stop trying to force your wisdom on people who are not ready. You stop feeling hurt when younger people ignore your advice. You stop taking it personally. Instead, you share your wisdom gently, without attachment to whether it is received. You offer it freely, like putting fruit on a table. Those who are hungry will take it. Those who are not will walk past. Both are okay. Your job is not to make them take the fruit. Your job is to put it on the table and let them choose. There is a beautiful story of an elderly monk who had great wisdom. Young monks would sometimes come to him seeking advice. But most young monks ignored him, thinking he was too old to understand modern problems. The elderly monk noticed this but did not let it bother him. He would share wisdom with those who asked. For those who did not ask, he simply lived his wisdom, letting his peaceful presence be an example. One day, a young monk came to him frustrated. "Master, I try to teach the younger monks what I have learned. but they do not listen. They think they know everything. It is so frustrating. The old master smiled knowingly and said, "When you were their age, did you listen to your elders?" The young monk paused. "No. I thought I knew everything too." The master nodded. "Exactly. Wisdom cannot be given. It can only be earned. They will learn when life teaches them. Until then, your words are just noise to them." "Then what should I do?" the young monk asked. The master replied, "Live your wisdom. Be an example. Share when asked. Do not force. When they are ready, they will come to you. And if they never come, that is okay too. Your wisdom is valuable whether anyone receives it or not. It is not worthless just because some people are not ready to hear it. A fruit tree does not feel rejected when someone walks past without taking fruit. It simply continues being a fruit tree. Be like that." The young monk understood. He stopped trying to force his knowledge on others. He lived his wisdom. He shared when asked. He stopped feeling frustrated. And something interesting happened. Because he was no longer forcing, people became more interested. His peaceful presence drew people to him. Young monks started asking questions, not because he was pushing wisdom on them, but because he had become someone they wanted to learn from. This is the right way to share wisdom in old age. Live it. Be an example. Share when people are genuinely interested. Do not force. Do not feel hurt when people are not ready. Your wisdom is valuable even if nobody receives it right now. Some people will receive it years from now when they remember your words after experiencing similar pain. Some will never receive it, and that is their choice. Your job is simply to be a source of wisdom available to those ready to drink from it. When you reach old age, share your wisdom generously. Tell your stories. Offer your insights. Give your advice when genuinely asked. But do not force it. Do not feel hurt when it is not received. Remember that most people need to learn through their own experience. Your wisdom is planting seeds that might not sprout until years later. Some might never sprout. Both are okay. Your value is not determined by whether people listen. Your value is inherent. Share your wisdom, let it go, and be at peace whether it is received or not. Lesson 9. Imagine accepting help with grace instead of shame and understanding that receiving is a gift you give others. The Buddha taught about interdependence and the balance of giving and receiving. One of the hardest adjustments in old age is needing help. For your entire life, you were the helper. You were strong, independent, capable. You did not need anyone. You prided yourself on your self-reliance. You were the one others came to for help. But now your body has limitations. You cannot do everything you used to do. You need help with things that used to be easy. Opening jars, reaching high shelves, carrying groceries, maybe even bathing or dressing. This feels humiliating, shameful, like you are a burden. Many older people resist asking for help. They struggle alone rather than admit they need assistance. They feel like needing help means they are weak, useless, a burden. They apologize constantly when they must ask for help. They feel guilty about it. This shame and resistance creates tremendous suffering. It isolates you. It makes simple tasks exhausting struggles. It prevents you from receiving the care and support that would make your life easier and more comfortable. But Buddhism teaches a profound truth about receiving. Receiving is not weakness. Receiving is part of the natural cycle of life. You spent decades giving. You cared for your parents when they were old. You raised your children. You helped friends. You supported your community. You gave and gave and gave. Now it is time to receive. This is not shameful. This is balance. This is completing the cycle. When you refuse to receive, you deny others the opportunity to give. You deny them the chance to feel useful, needed, loving. You deny them the chance to feel useful, needed, loving. You deny them the chance to repay what you gave them or pay forward what someone gave them. Receiving with grace is a gift you give to the giver. When you allow someone to help you, you are helping them feel purposeful. You are helping them feel connected. You are helping them practice compassion. You are teaching them how to give. Your children who help you are learning how to be caregivers. They are learning patience, compassion, service. You are giving them this lesson by allowing them to care for you. Your friends who help you feel needed and valued. You are giving them that feeling. Receiving is not taking. Receiving is an exchange. You receive help. They receive purpose. Both are gift. There was an elderly woman of 90 who lived with her daughter. She had always been fiercely independent, but now she needed help with many things. She could not bathe alone safely. She could not drive. She could not cook much anymore. Her daughter helped her with everything, but the old woman felt terrible about it. She apologized constantly. I am sorry I am such a burden. I am sorry you have to do this. I am sorry I am not useful anymore. Her daughter was patient but concerned. She could see her mother's shame and wanted to help her understand. One day, after another round of apologies, the daughter sat her mother down and said something that changed everything. Mom, do you remember when I was a baby? The old woman smiled. Of course. You were such a beautiful baby. The daughter continued. I could not feed myself. I could not bathe myself. I could not go to the bathroom alone. I could not do anything. You had to do everything for me. Were you burdened? The old woman was surprised by the question. Of course not. You were my baby. I loved caring for you. It was my joy. The daughter smiled gently. Then why do you think you are a burden to me now? You cared for me when I could not care for myself. Now I care for you. This is not a burden. This is love. This is the cycle of life. You gave to me. Now I give to you. Please stop apologizing. Stop feeling guilty. Let me care for you the way you cared for me. Not as a burden, but as a privilege. The old woman wept. She had never thought about it that way. She realized she was denying her daughter the gift of giving. She was making her daughter feel like her care was unwanted. From that day forward, she tried to receive with grace. When her daughter helped her bathe, instead of apologizing, she said, "Thank you, sweetheart." When her daughter cooked for her, instead of feeling guilty, she said, "This is delicious. I appreciate you." She still struggled with feeling useless sometimes, but she was learning that receiving is not shameful. It is part of being human. It is part of the cycle. You give when you can. You receive when you must. Both are valuable. This is one of the most important lessons of old age. Accept help with grace. Do not apologize for needing it. Do not resist it out of pride. Understand that allowing others to help you is a gift you give them. It gives them purpose. It teaches them compassion. It allows them to express their love. When you receive graciously, everyone benefits. You get the help you need. They get the meaning that comes from giving. Stop seeing yourself as a burden. Start seeing yourself as an opportunity for others to practice love, service, and care. This shift in perspective transforms both receiving and giving into sacred acts instead of shameful necessities. Lesson 10. Imagine living each day with the knowledge that it could be your last and letting that awareness make you grateful instead of afraid. The Buddha taught that mindfulness of death is one of the most powerful practices for living fully. Most people avoid thinking about death. They push it away. They pretend it is far in the future. They think about it will make them sad or scared. But the opposite is true. When you deeply accept that you will die, when you remember that every day could be your last, you stop taking life for granted. You stop wasting time on things that do not matter. You stop postponing joy. You stop holding grudges. You stop worrying about small things. You become intensely present, deeply grateful, and truly alive. In old age, death is no longer abstract or far away. It is close, real, inevitable. You know people who have died. You feel your own body declining. You understand viscerally that your time is limited. This could create fear and despair. Or it could create profound gratitude and presence. The difference is not in the circumstances. The difference is in how you relate to your mortality. If you resist it, fight it, deny it, you suffer. If you accept it, embrace it, let it wake you up, you find peace and joy you never knew possible. Living each day as if it could be your last does not mean living recklessly or desperately. It means living intentionally. It means asking yourself, if this were my last day, how would I want to spend it? Would I want to spend it angry? Holding grudges? Worried about things I cannot control? Doing things I do not enjoy? Or would I want to spend it peacefully? Connected to people I love? Appreciating simple pleasures? Saying important words? Doing meaningful things? When you ask this question honestly, it clarifies what actually matters. And when you know what matters, you can focus your limited time and energy there. There is a powerful story of an elderly monk who lived each day as if it were his last. Every morning when he woke up, he would say quietly, "I have been given another day. What a gift." He would spend his morning in quiet meditation, appreciating his breath, grateful for his body that still worked. He would eat his simple breakfast slowly, savoring each bite. He would spend time with the younger monks, sharing stories, offering wisdom, really listening to them. He would walk in the garden, noticing flowers, birds, trees, sky, as if seeing them for the first time. He would write letters to people he loved, telling them what they meant to him. He would sit in the evening watching the sunset, filled with gratitude for the beauty of the day. One young monk asked him, "Master, why do you live this way? Like every day is your last." The old monk smiled. "Because one day will be my last. I do not know which day. So I treat every day as precious. This keeps me grateful. This keeps me present. This keeps me from wasting time on things that do not matter." The young monk thought about this. "Does it not make you sad? Thinking about death every day?" The master shook his head. "No. It makes me alive. When I forget I will die, I take things for granted. I postpone joy. I waste time. But when I remember I will die, everything becomes precious. This meal. This conversation. This sunset. This breath. Death is not my enemy. Death is my teacher. It teaches me to be here. To be grateful. To love while I can. To live while I can." The young monk did not fully understand. He was young and death seemed far away. But the old monk continued his practice. Every day as if it were his last. And when he did die peacefully in his sleep at 96, the monks who prepared his body said his face held the most beautiful expression of peace they had ever seen. It was as if he had been smiling when he died. They realized his daily practice of living as if each day were his last had prepared him to die without fear, without regret, without resistance. He died the way he lived, grateful, present, at peace. This is the final great lesson of old age. Do not avoid thinking about death. Embrace your mortality as a teacher. Let it wake you up. Let it make each day precious. Let it help you see what actually matters. Let it give you the courage to say important words, to heal old wounds, to express love, to spend your time on what brings you peace and joy. When you live this way, death loses its power to frighten you. Because you are not postponing life until later. You are living it fully right now. And when death comes, whenever it comes, you will be ready. Not because you are resigned or defeated, but because you lived fully, loved deeply, and appreciated every moment you were given. Your sacred journey through old age. You now have 10 powerful lessons about focusing on yourself in old age. These are not just ideas. These are truths that, when lived, will transform your remaining years from a time of decline into a time of profound growth, peace, and spiritual preparation. Remember these truths. Make yourself the main character of your own story. You have spent your whole life in supporting roles. This chapter is yours. Release the need to stay relevant. Find power in simply being present, authentic, and at peace. Honor your body's journey. Thank it for carrying you this far. Treat it with gentleness and respect. Forgive everyone, including yourself. Do not waste your remaining time carrying old resentment. Do only what brings you joy. Release all obligations that feel like burdens. You have earned this freedom. Prepare your spirit for death. Face it with awareness and peace instead of fear and denial. Find joy in simplicity. Discover that happiness requires very little when you know where to look. Share wisdom without forcing it. Be an example. Offer insight. Let go of whether it is received. Receive help with grace. Understand that allowing others to care for you is a gift you give them. Live each day as if it could be your last. Let your mortality make you grateful and present, not afraid. Old age is not the end of your value. Old age is not time wasted waiting for death. Old age is the most sacred stage of your life if you approach it with wisdom. It is your time to finally focus on yourself, to let go of decades of burdens, to prepare your spirit, to find peace, to discover who you are when all the roles fall away, to complete your journey with grace and wisdom. You have given so much, you have carried so much, you have done so much. Now it is time to receive, to rest, to be gentle with yourself, to honor yourself, to focus on your own peace, your own joy, your own spiritual well-being. This is not selfish. This is sacred. This is what old age is for. So embrace this stage of life. Do not resist it. Do not waste it feeling useless or forgotten. Use it as the gift it is. The gift of time to finally become fully yourself. The gift of freedom from expectations. The gift of wisdom earned through decades of living. The gift of being able to let go. The gift of preparing your spirit for the greatest journey of all. If this teaching has touched your heart, share it with someone who is in their later years or someone who cares for an elderly loved one. Sometimes we all need a reminder. Old age is not the end. Old age is a sacred beginning. The beginning of the final, most important chapter. The chapter where you finally get to focus on yourself.